Hello and welcome to Console Shock Retro and Modern Gaming Chat with me, Trev and Stu.
Right, Stu. Hey Trev, how you doing?
Yeah, same shit, different podcast. How about you?
Yeah, same old. I wanted to. I know you was getting me nervous when I just do a random announcement, but we've
very nervous.
The last two podcasts on the stream or on the sort of podcast clients, we've had problems, and I don't quite know what the problems are because I upload them to the website, put the link onto our website, and then that's the RSS feed which goes to Spotify, iTunes, podcasts, all the podcatchers, and then when you click on it, sometimes you can download it, or sometimes you just listen to it, and sometimes it says, "Oh, there's an error. It won't let you listen to it." So we've had lots of people complaining or letting us know on Twitter and our Facebook page. Tens of thousands, a few, some. So I just want to sort of apologise for that. And I did. I uploaded the one a couple of weeks, or that you did a couple of weeks ago with Al, all about Game Boys and things like that and modding, and I tested it and it worked. So
okay, are the other ones kind of back then, or
no? The 103 is not.
Okay,
but 104 didn't work at one point, but now it works.
Okay, maybe it's just some temporary server shenanigans.
I think so, and I don't really know.
Well, I guess we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll try
so
and fix
just keep on
when
giving us feedback if you can't download it. And it's do you know what, people moaning about, well, not moaning, but giving us feedback on, we can't download it. It's actually quite good, because it's got, here we go. It's sort of more interaction. So any sort of interaction, good or bad, is great.
And we might not necessarily know if something isn't working, of course. So
yeah. And last announcement, in one of our recent episodes, we used a photo in the episode, and someone is trying to claim that photo and making us pay £500. And we want to start a Patreon, a GoFundMe, because we're against this. That's not fair.
We took some advice, some legal advice from Lady Decade and Top Hat Gaming Man, and they recommended getting a Patreon going.
Getting a Patreon. I'm going to do a video later crying.
I mean, it was just a picture of, the movie poster of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. We didn't think anybody would be bothered about us just using that for free. No. But apparently there's, bloody copyright trolls that want to copyright the world's most famous movie poster. I mean, come on.
What's going on? But
it's more woke nonsense. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Exactly. And why can't we just play copyrighted music all the time?
I know.
Exactly.
If people haven't guessed, actually, we're being jovial because no, we haven't done anything like that. Yeah, I'm actually quite careful. We have the only real imagery we use, because obviously we're an audio podcast. We don't video anything. We did in our very early days, but that was a long time ago. We also have thumbnails that we make, and I do try to make sure, as well as you can with the tools that we have, that any of the sort of the imagery, I was saying that I've used things like $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase and things like that, but we don't charge for the podcast. We don't make any money off it. We haven't got Patreon or anything, so hopefully that we're okay. But we're not big enough. If we get 1 million subs and there's more people on us, perhaps then we need to worry about it. But right now, I think we're doing okay, and we do try and be a bit careful. But that was kind of funny.
What is the issue? Could we get an email from Ted DiBiase?
I guess so. Passed away. Vince McMahon.
Yeah, could we get an email from Vince McMahon
saying? I would say so. Yeah.
Saying, take that down. You're using an image there.
He would say, "You're up against a machine too strong." I don't know if you get that reference, Stu. That's Vince McMahon's entrance theme.
I always laugh when you put these images on Facebook, and I don't always get them.
Oh yeah, well, that time I sent you a picture of my knob, you were like, "I don't get this. Is this a wrestler?"
What? Yeah.
Oh, hang on, I shouldn't have said that. Sorry.
Yeah.
You didn't hear that. Oh, that's all right. I'll erase that from the podcast. Remind me, Stu, to clip that bit out of the podcast. All right?
Yeah. Clip that out. 5 minutes in.
Cheers, mate. I
4
won't
minutes
check
in.
when I'll publish it, and hopefully I would have remembered. I won't check it again, but yeah. I like doing that. I like putting. Well, to me, they're not irrelevant. It's just
no.
I mean, pop culture.
I'm sure in your mind they make perfect sense. They make perfect sense
in my mind and millions of other fans of this stuff. But you in your cave.
Exactly. Oh, look,
cave in the 90s.
It's a reference to Back to the Future Part 3. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, got ya.
What the hell's Back to the Future Part 3?
Part 3, the one with the train.
Oh yeah. The best one, I think, isn't it? Is it the best one? There's another podcast about that, isn't it? Got to be too political in this podcast, do we, with those sort of nonsense? No. But it's interesting because there was, going back to what we were kind of taking the mick out of just a minute ago. Probably means we might be able to invite these guys on our podcast now. So cheers, Stu, for that.
Oh my god! Honestly,
not like they're coming to us like banging down our doors, is it?
No, I mean.
So it was lady. Do you want to explain? Stu, you explain because you're on the.
Well, yeah, it's
you're kind of the Keemstar. You're the Keemstar of our podcast. You're on the.
Let's get into the news.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, so they did a video, and they used a still from a.
So who is it? To start with, who is?
Oh, Lady Decade. Decade did a video.
Kind of came out of nowhere, didn't she? I mean, I know about Top Hat Gaming Man. He's not really my cup of tea. But he did occasionally have a girlfriend a wife, I think, that he featured in his videos. I think she didn't seem to be particularly interested in any of this video game stuff. Not to say she wasn't a video gamer, but then I noticed that she suddenly got her own channel, and it was probably because her husband said, "You know what? It'll make us more money with having another channel. Hopefully, your channel will blow up as well." And then we've got two revenue streams. I hate to say it, but some blokes like watching a woman talk about this stuff that's attractive in some way. Really cynical of me. Sorry about that. I am feminist as balls. I think women are awesome. You totally should do like video game stuff, and no one should troll you or do that kind of crap.
No.
But, I think that there was an element of that, perhaps. And you know what? Booby streamers on Twitch. I'm not like you. Stop doing it. I'm like, hey, if you've got it, people will pay you money for it. Effing go for it. Don't just do it.
Well, I mean, I think there's two sides of the story, and so Lady Decade did a video. I never saw the video, and apparently there was a screenshot in there where they took an image, which was a copyrighted image from another gentleman, and a few months later or a month later, he sent them an email and claimed that video and said, I'm sorry, you've used my image here. If people want to use my image, and it's £500. And so she sort of did a video. So, I've got children. This is terrible. My channel's going to be ruined, and things like that. And I can appreciate when if someone does make a claim against us, I'm not a copyright lawyer. I don't know the ins and outs. I don't want this channel to be taken down. So I think I'd be quite. I'd be worried. I'd be taken aback by it. I think that's
true. You're lucky, mate. You're lucky, mate, because your shop, when you were still running it, had a picture of Sonic and it had a picture of Mario on it. So I was like this close to reporting your ass to the Nintendo man, whatever he is, Mr. Nintendo, I think is probably his name.
Nakamoto.
That does the
Anyway,
who does the copyright.
Anyway, back to the. So anyway, she sort of did a video claiming, it's terrible. I'm being blackmailed and I don't think she was blackmailed. I think it was a proper request. Here's the cost to use.
I mean, you could have just paid it, I guess, and that would have been it. No one would have had to have known on like the channel, and probably it's a lot of money. I'm not saying it's nothing, but
exactly. So she came out and did this video, in tears, and a lot of people sort of supported her, and they paid the money. And I mean,
if I could just say this, I mean, in terms of the amount, not being funny, but Top Hat Gaming Man, a lot of his videos are him on some kind of extravagant holiday. Normally, they'll be doing a video, and presumably his wife is with him, Lady Decade. So, and he's got a big video game collection. I think they've also got a decent sized house. Again, I'm making some judgments, but this is based on what they have shown us. So I'm not completely like grabbing this from nowhere. That would suggest they might be able to chuck a guy 500 quid, maybe even in a one-off payment, So yeah, out there.
Trev, I think you're absolutely right, and that was the feedback that a lot of people gave them was actually, you're sitting in front of all these games, and then but I was sort of thinking, well, on the other side, could they have handled it better, and could they have gone, sort of actually said, well, if it was a different YouTuber, for example, and say, well, actually, I get 150 views on each video, and I've got a £500 bill, and I'm sorry I made a mistake, oh no, I'm really sorry, and actually show a bit more sort of compassion around it, and oh no, I'm really sorry, we'll take the video down, and maybe there should have been a slightly different sort of reaction to it. But then one thing, there's another YouTube channel that I don't know, it's a really sort of odd channel, and I
Console Shock.
Well, that could be it. But there's another one called whatever it's called. I do know the name. I don't want to say it. But
it's going great, Stu. Keep going.
Keep going. So he's doing all these videos and just absolutely slating Lady Decade and Top Hat Gaming Man, calling them all names under the sun. They're absolutely terrible people. So I'm actually sort of almost going toward, does the punishment, judge the crime? And they have paid the money. They probably got more money what they asked for in their Patreon. Okay, fair enough. But I really think they're getting maybe a bit of a hard time now.
Yeah. I certainly wouldn't justify all the trolling and everything. But there's like a whole culture of YouTube of that, isn't there? Like, well, we talk about Review Tech USA a lot. I randomly stumbled across a channel because it got like presented to me, and like how bad YouTube is for giving you like awful suggestions that are just things that shouldn't really be on YouTube generally. But it's just a YouTube channel for trolling him, and the guy like clips bits mainly from his live streams. There was one that I watched where he was like during a live stream, his wife like knocked on the door and of his studio. I don't know if his studio is in his house or he has to charge. I guess it is. And it might not have even been. Actually, I don't even know. But he was talking to someone off camera. But judging by his side of the conversation, which is all you could hear, it was something to do with his kids and his wife. Is he married? Is he married to his wife? Is a significant other? I don't know. But yeah, she was like, I think she was asking for help with putting the kids to sleep, and one of them was being cranky and wouldn't go to sleep. And Rich was like, I'm on a live stream. I can't do it now. Can you just tell them to like calm down? So a fairly, a mundane family moment. And Rich was basically saying, I'm at work. Obviously, it's a bit different, when you are just upstairs in like a studio that you've got built in your own house. But technically, it is what's paying his bills. So potentially, he can't necessarily always just leave his stream if there's people watching him and want to chuck him like super chats and stuff. But this guy clipped it and like put in little still frames where he's saying he ignored his wife and children to be on YouTube. Again, the usual argument of YouTube's not a real job. You're not really doing work. You should basically do it for free, and you still need to care for your family. You can't. So yeah, but there's that's a whole channel, and it's just that. And it's probably because the person might not really be vindictive against Rich. It's just a person that saw, and these are like videos of him slagging off like Rich is like gets thousands of views. We have what quote unquote, well, some of mine I think it is, but legitimate stuff. We're just talking normally about things we're into. No one gives a crap. But a video with any kind of a YouTube drama, it's a license to print, views, and money as well. Look at we mentioned him, Keemstar and all that.
That's his.
Rich himself. He does drama videos. He goes about how he doesn't like doing them, but he does them.
I mean, it's quite funny, and all that drama about quantum TV, and
yeah, it's like, do we need another video about it?
Yeah, you did one the other day, but it was 20 minutes, and I couldn't put it. I thought, I can't be bothered.
You could almost watch any of those long, especially the long ones that are 15+ minutes as a drinking game. Take a shot of something when he mentions Elden Ring. Take a shot of something when he gets some kind of retro thing. So I'm going to show you this. This is not the cartridge I'm talking about, but this cartridge of Super Mario Land on the Game Boy. When he does that to represent something else, and also when he mentions Quantum TV, you'll be pissed after watching a video. Especially a 20-minute long one or something.
Well, exactly. It's anyway. Yeah. So I get. You like to have a little bit of moan sometimes, but I'm of the opinion if you don't like a YouTuber, if someone grates on you, don't watch it.
Yeah, but it's become like a cottage industry now where people actually make money out of posting videos of often unfair criticism of people with clips that are out of context, and often people that are naive and don't understand nuance and context will just eat them up and be like, so and so's an idiot, look at this video I saw of a person clipping bits out of another video. It's
not good at all.
No. Okay, well, talking of video games, which is what we tend to we sort of occasionally talk about these days, isn't it? Really,
we do. Yeah. What we aim to do is talk about Review Tech USA.
Yeah.
And video games every now and again.
Yeah. And you often mention football, which is obviously a real driver.
Oh, have you bought the new
channel.
FIFA? Have you bought the new FIFA?
Nah. Nope. Have you?
I think you know the answer to that.
Yeah, wait for it to go on sale, isn't it? That's the thing. Wait till April, and it'll be 10 quid on whatever storefront you want to get it, Steam or whatever. Yeah. That's the best plan. Anyway, talking of video games, we actually, when the Nintendo Switch was actually announced, I mean, this is thinking about several years ago now, 2017. We actually spoke about it, didn't we? I think actually there was an episode we had Oliver Harper on.
Yeah.
And that was around the time that they did their little announcement for it. And I think we said even then, potentially this could create an arms race of other people trying to come up with similar devices. And that's basically what's happening now, isn't it? So when we look at, the legacy of the Nintendo Switch, I mean, throughout the first year or two, there wasn't really anything exactly in that class. The closest thing was probably, I don't know if you've heard of this device, but the GPD Win, which was like a little laptop PC that we could fit in the palm of your hand that had a keyboard and a flip-top screen and an Xbox controller sort of layout built into it. But it was very underpowered. It had like an Intel Atom. You could run PC games on it, but it'd have to be like ones that are 7 or 8 years old. And even then, it'll be at the lowest settings. Still quite a cool device, but since then, we've had... well, the big one is obviously the Steam Deck, and like the Iron Neo's another one that's come in. And I don't think these things would have existed if it wasn't for the Nintendo Switch landing. I mean, what are your sort of thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, what surprised me was with the Switch. That's been an amazing success, and in the console market, but. Xbox, Sony, no one's tried to sort of mimic that technology. And in the past, you've seen people, the Wii had the motion, so then the PlayStation 3 had motion, and Xbox.
That's a really good point, because their direct competitors haven't really tried, have they?
Yeah. No, there's been no sort of portable sort of copy or any sort of Switch sort of kind of idea sort of coming out there, and that's been, to me, a little bit sort of surprising. So when people talk about the Steam Deck, I'm going, well, yeah, it's to me, the Steam Deck's more like it's like a portable PC. It's like a a PSP. It's like a Vita. It's like a Switch Mini or Switch Lite, and that's sort of, to me, what it's closer to, and they're more. I think I'm surprised that the Xbox and the Sonys of the world have not tried to make their own sort of version of it. A cut down Xbox One or a cut down PS4, because I think that would have done really well.
Yeah, I guess. It's weird, isn't it? Because we had there's a temptation. I think people just flat out say this, that the Switch is the first time we've basically been able to we've had like the an identical experience in a handheld form versus the home console. And that's not entirely true. I mean, there were ports to the Vita of console games. Like, I don't mean like a game that came out 10 years earlier. I mean like games that were literally of the same generation, like Borderlands 2, on the Vita, Ninja Gaiden Sigma and things like that came out on the Vita, but it was really, really far behind what would eventually would come out, like the PS4 and the Xbox One. So it couldn't really do anything that would it didn't really make an attempt to try and port any games that were released for those consoles. But, there's also an argument, well, if it was more popular, then developers might have tried to make, Dead Rising 3 for the Vita, or tried to port things like that Rise, Son of Rome, and maybe Uncharted 4 somehow. They could have, somehow like squished it down. We got Need for Speed Most Wanted, and there's a handful of others.
But saying that, going back in time, Trev, if you think about the Nomad, that was a portable version of the Mega Drive, and then before that you had the Turbo Express, the portable, Turbo
made by NEC.
Who?
Made by NEC.
NEC.
Nippon Electric Company, NEC. Yeah,
I
think I said NEC once. I said NEC once, but you corrected me and said no, it's NEC. I was like, it's a bit weird. But I'm just gonna keep saying it.
I actually thought it was NEC.
Yeah, well, you learn something new every day.
Is it NEC? Just so I get it right.
I think so. Sounds good though, doesn't it? NEC. Hey man, I'm playing my neck. Let's check out my neck. Just works, doesn't it? Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
Like Sega, like Americans say Sega.
Sega.
I'm going to play my Sega. Yeah.
Sega.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, I've lost my train of thought.
Segue.
Now, Segway. I went on a Segway this week.
Turbo Express.
Turbo Express. Now, if you think about it, they're portable versions of home systems. So, and on quite a small screen, it's not quite the same experience, even though
I'd say
the
Turbo
hardware.
Express was the first one. You could probably say that is literally the first example of a home console experience on the go. I think that is probably that is literally where it started.
I would also say the Game Gear.
It depends it's a good point. I guess it depends where you draw the line. If you're saying like the cutting edge of home consoles, you probably couldn't throw the Game Gear in there because the Mega Drive was more powerful and there wasn't a hand that could play Mega Drive games. The Turbo Express, I mean, that was the most powerful one. When the Super Nintendo came out, it nudged it down quite a bit, but it was at the top. It was in that 16-bit generation, shall we say. I know it's officially an 8-bit console that's really powerful and basically is like a 16-bit console, but that was in that generation with the other 16-bit consoles. So I would say the Turbo Express more so than the Game Gear. But it is a good point because, I mean, even more so with the Game Gear because it could you had the converter, so you could actually play Sega Master System games on it, which is very cool.
Exactly. That was the point I was sort of getting at. That you can do that, and I almost sort of want to go back a little bit. So I was saying, well, actually, Xbox and PlayStation haven't come out with portable systems, but on the other hand, yes, they have, because you can play Xbox on the cloud on your phone. So they're trying to maybe if you want to play a few levels of Forza, and then once you save
have you ever done that, by the way?
Do you know what? I haven't, and I think I pay for the service. It's part of my ultimate subscription, so I could do if I want to, but I don't want to play these games with touchscreen controls. I don't really want to play them over the cloud. or over a sort of a home network, it won't be a great experience. I'd rather play them on the big screen, and I don't want to buy some add-on to stick onto my phone to play them. And I
when
think
you've
there's
got
lots
better handhelds that you could have a better experience on. Yeah,
exactly. For me, it's something. And obviously this week, Stadia, Google Stadia, have announced that they're turning off the servers and all of
Shock.
that. And do you know what? I want to give them real credit. I think they had a really good go at it. But actually, even more credit, because everyone has said, okay, whatever game you bought, by the 1st of January, end of January, whatever, we'll refund you. So you're not
I think that's pretty good of them, to be fair.
Yeah, I spent £40 on a game. Hold on, now I can't play it. Oh, I want a refund. You're going to get that refund, even if you played that game to life and never want to play it again. You'll still get a refund for it. So I think Google is a great example of actually sort of great customer service there to people.
Yeah, I mean, probably by default, it's the best streaming platform there's ever been, really. Or there was On Live. I actually used that back in the day. I actually quite liked it, but that died. I mean, I have tried xCloud actually on my Xbox One One X. Sorry, so not the current generation, the last gen, and it was crap. It was. I was trying to play Forza Motorsport 7. It was super laggy. It made it unplayable. I tried again with Flight Simulator because there's no local. We can't play that locally on a One X. It only works on a series or on a PC. But the downloads are insane for that game. So I thought I'd try it over the cloud, and it was crap. I mean, I've got like an absolute ridiculous business level internet connection, but it's probably decent by normal people standards, private resident standards, if you want to call it that. It might be because my girlfriend does watch like Netflix in the evenings, but I can't imagine that would kill an entire.
But that's the point, Trev. If these services want to work, you want to be able to turn them on while someone else is downloading or someone else is watching Netflix. It can't be a service which you pay for and then you go, oh, actually, everyone, can you please stop streaming iPlayer? Can you please stop doing this? I want to do my one thing. And it's pointless. It's got to, or the internet's got to get better, or these services have got to get better, so they provide like for like performance that matches what you get from having the console sitting underneath your TV screen.
Yeah, I mean, so what we were sort of getting at was, the only real portable Xbox experience is through the streaming, and it's not a great experience.
Not a great experience, no.
Not a replacement for a Switch, certainly. Sony, they're obviously out at the moment. They had the Vita, which basically had a good couple of years, really, and then after that, it became an indie, platform. Some would say the best indie game platform ever, though. I'd probably argue the Switch has probably overtaken it now. I've made the argument before of people that are lamenting the fact that it wouldn't have been great if we got a Vita 2. And I'm like, well, that's basically the Nintendo Switch. Probably would have had similar sort of power.
Yeah.
So just get that. Okay, you're not going to get Uncharted on it, but every other third-party game you might have got on a Switch, Vita 2. But in saying that, I don't think Sony didn't have the handheld. Well, the PSP was relatively successful, and again, we can look at that as a big leap in sort of performance. We had kind of almost a Dark Ages, really, where we had the Nomad. And then we were really stuck in kind of Game Boy original land for about, or sort of 2D kind of 16-bit land until the PSP, really, from 1989 to 2004. We didn't really, the handhelds didn't advance like the home consoles did. I'm not saying that's because anybody like the companies were holding back. It was just because one, Nintendo dominated it so much that no one really was inclined to try and better them with just ridiculously overpowered handhelds, and also the technology just wasn't there. Probably laptop computers, probably advanced battery life, and shoehorning in desktop quality sort of crap into like a small form factor. So that kind of maybe helped with handheld consoles. But yeah, I mean, we're the furthest we got was the Game Boy Advance, and that was still basically a glorified SNES. But then we got the PSP, and much like the Turbo Express and the Nomad, that gave us a real. I mean, the PS2 was the contemporary console at that point, and it could pretty much do what you could do on a PS2. Again, the visuals are dialed down, but you wouldn't need to really make a baby version of a game. You could flat out port a game, over to the PSP with a few nips and tucks. And that might have been the first time you could do that, really. So there was the PSP and the Vita, quite similar, but unfortunately didn't get the lifespan that the PSP had that allowed developers to really, push it to its limits. But then we got to the Switch, and it also, it added that genius idea of it's a home console as well as a handheld. It's a hybrid,
and that's why it's been so successful.
Yeah.
And I've been playing it all week. I still think it is an absolutely sort of brilliant machine. I wish it was a bit more powerful. I wish it could do a few other things and stuff like that. But in reality, I think it's a sort of really quality machine. But I think where it stood out is it's not the Vita and the PSP. The DS is its own thing, are almost cut down versions of another machine or another console. And I think I'd like to see, or why it's being successful is you can play it on the go, and it's the same experience as putting it in front of your TV and sitting down with the Pro controller. It's a very similar experience, and that's the real sort of success around it. We can talk about, actually it's got all the Nintendo games as well, so yeah, that's really added to it. But taking it back sort of 7, 8, maybe 10 years, there's lots of talk on the internet that the whole future of portable gaming will be mobile gaming. And no, I honestly, there's I might play. I'll play Wordle, maybe one or two others, but
I don't game at all on a mobile phone. I dabbled, going back to. Well, there's been games on phones for 30 some odd years by at this point. The best I've ever done is like bloody Angry Birds and Super Mario Run. But I don't like touch controls. The sort of games that lend themselves to touch controls, like gem matching games and things like that, don't really interest me. To be honest, when I'm commuting now, which doesn't happen very often, I don't even really game at all. Even if I had, I could take a Switch Lite. I've got a Switch Lite as well as the regular. I actually tend to just listen to podcasts and listen to music and read stuff on my phone, or browse the internet if I'm able to. I don't really find playing. When I was younger and during the PSP era, God, I used to take that everywhere. That was like my main console for a little while. When I first moved down to London, it was especially, and when I was going to uni. But yes, I don't really.
But that's it.
Do you game? Take a Switch with you or anything? Or
if I'm on a long flight or maybe a long train journey, I will do. But I wouldn't take one on my commute to work. It's before you get going, you're there, or you got to change trains or something like that. It doesn't quite sort of work really. But I think, if you go back 10 years again to mobile games, it was, this is going to be the future. And now you look on the App Store for, under games, and it's pay to win kind of.
Gacha.
I don't know. Just nothing really sort of jumps out to me. And they're
no better than sort of 2010 Facebook games, like Farmville and stuff.
I mean, I'm sure there's some really good ones on there, but I don't know what they are. And the same is true actually for the Switch. And I've moaned about this countless times before. And like the other day, I went onto the Switch and I wonder what's on there for sale in their sale section. And there was 2,500 games and I must have gone through maybe 100 of them.
Crap. with a slow ass like eShop scrolling awful store.
Exactly, and it's just like rubbish.
It makes the store on the PS Triple look good, you know, and that is a laggy mess and has been since 2011, you know. So
so just buying stuff on the Switch. Unfortunately, they've really, I don't know. You know, you
and
want
to be
something...
fair, they're pretty good with sales. I mean,
the
games get good discounts.
The sales are good,
apart from their own
Trev,
games.
What my point is that you can be looking on there, and you can go down to maybe the 100th game, and then it's actually a really good game at a really good price, but it's hidden behind all this crap, and there's no sort of, you know, what's the word, curation. Do you know when you go into a bookshop and then, you know, here's all the best sellers. Here's the, you know, these are the books that are selling, that are really good. You know, we've got experts here who actually know what they're talking about, and here are the good books. There might be a gem in the back somewhere that'll be passed over, but you know, I just feel that with the Switch store, it's garbage on garbage, you know, with a few gems here and there.
I mean, you can, you're right. I mean, you can mitigate that a little bit. I mean, you know, to quote Macho Man Randy Savage, the cream rises to the top.
Who's that? Who's Macho Man?
Just a bloke off the telly. It's a bloke off the telly. Yeah, so I mean, you could look at the charts, you know, and that'll give you a decent idea of what things are actually good, because for the most part, the good stuff will sell the most. And there'll be games that you just know in your head that are, you know, good games that you can manually search for. But you can't really use the store itself as a good judge of, and it's just bad to navigate, really. And it's not curated at all.
And actually, what I want to say, Steam's got the same problem.
Yeah,
I think I read the other day, or
like
months
asset
ago,
flip
maybe,
games and just like nonsense. Yeah,
I don't know. It was something like on Steam, 500 new games or 1,000 new games are added every day.
Yeah, and they're all like weird, like visual novel porn stuff, or like gem matching, or like And
I'm sure there's some gems in there, but then how
hidden
do
gem games?
The gems, hidden gems. How do the gems of those games get out there? You know what makes people download that one, or how do they find them? And
how can I find the really good games like Terminator Salvation and Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, and not bloody Honey Pop? And, you know, all these other, like Life of Black Tiger, that awful game that's kind of famous now. I mean, to be honest, it's not an absolute disastrous thing to happen. People will ignore the bad games, and the good games it's difficult for good games to get seen on the front page. But, you know, for the most part, the ways that, you know, there were tons of crap games that came out, you know, at all times, especially on something like the Amiga, where, you know, but I guess the cost of entry was higher, so it was less likely you would get, you know, asset flip games and all of that kind of crap. But I mean, to be honest, like the Switch library, you know, when you look at the really good indie games and the AAA games, it's probably the best library any handheld has ever had. You know, obviously the GBA had a great library, the original Game Boy, Game Gear had gems and all that crap. But you've got the best of you know, of what you would get on a home console, plus the Nintendo games that you got on every Nintendo home console. You're not getting baby versions. You're not getting Assassin's Creed. You know, what was the one that was just like the Vita one? And eventually they ported it to like 360 and Liberation.
Some sort of 2D.
You're not getting a weird spin-off game.
2.5D.
You haven't got Ubisoft or someone, the developer, saying, "Oh, we need to make a bloody, you know, the 3DS game, so let's just get some third-party company we can subcontract it out to. They can just, you know, make some spin-off game amongst themselves, and as long as it's competent, will it out." Now that they just, you know, you get these incredible efforts being made, and there's actually kind of now these studios that appear to all they do is port games, like Feral Interactive. who are contractors that really they get given a game like here's Alien Isolation, the PS4 build or whatever. Can you shrink that down to the Switch? And thankfully the Switch, because it's so popular, publishers now want to get those AAA home console experiences onto the Switch, which is what didn't happen with the Vita. We're not going to spend the money trying to squeeze down Uncharted 4 onto the Vita. There's no one's going to buy it. When you've got 100+ million units, it's a no-brainer now.
I think the next question really for you, Trev, is what's the portable gaming market going to look like in sort of 2 years' time? Will there
That's a really good question.
A wealth of Steam Deck imitators, or will there be the Switch Pro, Switch 2, the Switch Super, or will Xbox or PlayStation come into the market and with some super cloud service or some,
well, we've got the Switch, so there'll be the next will be the Switch U.
Don't.
Or they could just make the Super Nintendo 2. We still haven't got a Super Nintendo. We had one. We haven't had two yet. It's like that. It's like that joke. So if PC is so good for gaming, how come there's 5 PlayStations and only one PC that's ever come out?
That's a good point. That is
checkmate,
a good point.
PC gamers. To answer your question, I think we do definitely have to have some kind of an updated Switch. They can't be pushing the Switch into an 8th and a 9th and a 10th year because the devs will abandon it because they, it's the current gen consoles are far too ahead of the Switch for them to really make it worthwhile porting a game down to it. They've just about got Witcher on there. They just about got Crysis. They just about got all those great Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, which are incredible like ports by the way. But will they really be able to do that in another 2 years? No. So they need basically a Switch Pro, Switch U, Super Switch, whatever they're going to call it, and it should really be around the power of at least a base PS4 for it to be able to keep up and be viable for AAA third-party ports of current gen games.
I think something near the Series S. That's what I like to see. But the point is,
I don't think they'll go that far, though. I don't think they go that far. There's one thing that they could potentially really leverage, and that's like super sampling. So when you're plugged into the TV, you could perhaps play Super Switch games, and they look like 4K because it has really good. The graphics card in there has really good checkerboard rendering architecture. Like people tend to call it super sampling. It's always been super sampling, but that's the DLSS. Like Nvidia has. If it could support that, you could potentially mitigate. At the moment, the current Switch doesn't have any of that. So, a game that's really struggling on the Switch, that's maybe a port from a more powerful console like Ark Survival Evolved, which looked horrendous on the Switch. You could potentially have games that similarly might struggle, but you could have checkerboard rendering that could fill in the gaps and sort of cheat to look nearly as good as whatever it's being ported from, without doing a big overload on the graphics card.
What I've seen from the from the Steam Deck is that you don't need a 1080p screen. It can be lower than that, and I think they should stick with a 720p screen.
I agree.
And the whole idea is that and I wouldn't mind seeing them sort of experimenting with. It's almost like, well, when it's in portable mode. I'm making up stuff here. It's got one processor at 1,000, 1 gigahertz. But when it's docked, there's actually a second processor or something within the dock, and then they double up the to 2 gigahertz, for example. So it's almost like, well, it's a bit more. It's like twice the power when it's docked, and you get a more of a an Xbox Series X,
that's kind of what it's doing already to an extent. When
exactly. I know that the clock does speed up. But
to a bigger degree, basically, you unlock more cores exactly. I would hope they would do something like that. So that for sure. A bit more. You get a bit more when it's docked. More CPU cores are unlocked and all that stuff. The more teraflops are available. You can keep it 720 on the handheld mode, so you can dial down the power requirements but not compromise the experience. And the games that will look, running at 720p will look great on a 720p screen. It should be around the power of ideally a Series S, but I don't think Nintendo will go that far. I think it'd be more like a PS4 Pro or base PS4, which will just about be okay enough. I think it needs to have really good super sampling.
That's a bit of a compromise, though. I'd like to.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, if it was up to me, I would totally go with a Series S kind of level of power. Yeah,
that's where it needs to be, and hopefully, they could do it, and it can be. Should they take any lead from the Steam Deck? I want to. Oh God, they got an AMD.
It's probably about the level of an Xbox One, a base Xbox One, probably between a PS4 and an Xbox One, maybe closer to a PS4 because the graphics drivers are more modern and it's got the Zen 2 architecture, which is obviously a lot more than the Jaguar cores in the PS4 and the Xbox One. So probably more like a PS4, which is just about good to play current gen games, although that will be a struggle in another 3 or 4 years. But probably knowing Steam, they aren't like Nintendo. I don't think they'll. And also the PC gaming ecosystem is different to consoles. PC gamers are happy to pay. Well, not all of them. I mean, I don't, but are happy to pay potentially £300 every couple of years to get a new graphics card. So I think they might accept having like a mobile phone. Having like I said, 2 years time, hopefully we'll get a Switch Pro, whatever you want to call it. I think maybe in 2 more years, it might not be available to buy, but they'll be announcing, the Steam Deck 2, which will have a more high-powered version. And one thing I didn't mention with the Switch, I mean, I think this is a given, but it needs to be backwards compatible with the original Switch, which I think it would be.
100%.
But also those games run better on the Switch Pro, like on games where there's already perhaps the frame rate's already unlocked. Obviously, they'll just be able to run better naturally without having to do anything. Maybe they'll release patches for games that struggled before. It'd be great if we've got 2016 Doom, a patch come out, which meant it could run at 60 FPS on the new Switch. And that The Witcher and games like that could run better. So yeah.
So what do you think in the next 2 years? That seems to be the time we're talking about. But do you think there will be a competitor to the Switch? So I think we know there's going to be a Switch 2. I think we know there's going to be updated versions of the Steam Deck with potentially better specs and more capability. Will there be anything else coming into the market to compete against it?
I mean, we can't really see anything from Sony. I think they've kind of been burned by handhelds with the Vita. I'd love to see it though, because they'd be more inclined to stuff as much power as they could, which is what they did with their other handhelds, as opposed to Nintendo tend to be a bit more conservative. Microsoft, I think, would be more likely to take a chance on that. But I can imagine if they did do something. I've mentioned this a few times before on the podcast, but I think they'd probably do something more like a gaming laptop. I don't mean with the big keyboard in, just that sort of form factor with like a 15-inch screen. You could, fold it up, stick it in your bag, and it'll have Game Pass, and you probably not an optical drive, but you would just Game Pass on it.
I mean that's an interesting point, because they do the Surface line of laptops, and I think they look really good. They're really smart, and what if they were to do the Surface X or something, and that actually comes what you're saying with Game Pass. You buy it, you get a year's membership of Game Pass. It has a 3060 card in there. All the cooling, it's got your keyboard, got your mouse, so it's actually a real sort of sit down and have a good a gaming session on that. It's got a nice big screen, and so it's actually the Xbox sort of gaming system, whatever they want to call it, the Surface X, to link in with that. And I think that'll be sort of a smashing sort of idea to for them. But then you can argue that there's 1,000,001 gaming laptops already that would
the
do
trouble is they're very
just that.
expensive. The thing with Microsoft, they'd be if they made it an Xbox laptop or something in a laptop form factor, a portable Xbox, whatever you want to call it, they would need to sort of make something that'd be about 300, 400 quid, which a gaming laptop is like triple that in for that's only for a low end one. And people with this, console gamers wouldn't want to pay that for a console. But I don't think it's going to happen. They're more likely, but one, the other, like Sony and Microsoft look at Nintendo with the units they've sold, and like we just can't. It's not worth getting into a fight with Nintendo when it comes to handhelds because they're the all-time champions. I could be wrong. I might end up like Michael Pachter and say these stupid things, and Phil Spencer announces an Xbox handheld, but I don't think there'll be anything from Sony or Microsoft at a stretch. It's more likely Microsoft, but I don't think either of them will do it. The competitors will be on the PC end. So we've got Iron Neo. The only trouble with them is that they often end up being less powerful than a Steam Deck and cost twice as much. Well, so I can't see them becoming as popular as the Steam Deck has.
I remember my point before is, will Valve release the Steam Deck? What's the software, so that anyone can come along. You might, as I said before, you might get a Dell one, you might get a one from Asus, and all these different, NEC might even come back into making laptops, and they could potentially make a Steam Deck compatible system. So that will actually become the sort of the default system for this whole new format of and it'll be another type of computer. You have desktop computers, laptops, and decks. So, and I wouldn't even mind seeing a bit more connectivity with a television, and actually having it so when it's a Steam Deck, but you pop it on your TV, and then it automatically connects rather than having wires coming down. Actually, a proper dock, and so it actually sort of works out a little bit of a sort of better, more conducive sort of system. And I think there's lots of sort of opportunities for people to use the Steam sort of environment to make the Steam even better, make it better value. It's great value anyway, but better value, better this, better that, better performance, and they'll almost become a little bit of a competition to make a better Steam Deck.
Na 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 na, Asus. Did you like that?
I wonder what you're going about then.
Anyway, to get to your point, I think that might happen. Because Dell will look at, there are other companies that are very capable of manufacturing a handheld PC like the Steam Deck. Dell is probably a big one, but they probably would put Windows on it. But they could come up with some software that would make it more easy to swallow in handheld mode. Because the great thing about the Steam Deck is it works great. They've done a great job at consoleizing PC gaming because they have an operating system that they've made themselves and they can tinker with. There's only so much you can kind of do with Windows, really. I mean, the Iron Neo uses Windows, but all the reviews I've seen, the way they sort of try and make it a bit more palatable for a handheld that's got limited controls, it still isn't perfect.
I think the issue is
on a desktop and and control a mouse at some point and all that stuff.
Yeah, I still think to get the right price point, the issue with Windows. From what I've seen about the Steam, because you could get Windows on Steam, you probably installed it yourself, is that actually let's put on Windows, let's download the GOG store, let's download put on all these other different things, but the point is then actually the Windows uses so much resources that it actually makes a really poor performance for playing games. So potentially that's again Microsoft's way in, is going, oh, hold on, there's a whole new area coming here of Steam Decks. Why don't we make Windows 11 Deck Edition or whatever they want to call it, that actually uses a lot less resources, and it's not focused on been in, I don't know, network solutions and all this other stuff. It's just focused on, putting games on there, running Steam OS within it, all these different options. And that could be a real sort of opportunity, really.
I think if Microsoft wanted to make something their operating system more gaming focused, well, I don't think they need to, because they've already got a version of Windows that is purely for gaming, which is on the Xbox. So that would just be them making a gaming handheld, or an Xbox handheld, really, which again they might. We've just speculated on it, but potentially. I mean, Steam, would they want to hand out their operating system to Dell to make their own a competitor? I'm thinking
you've got to think that I don't think Steam. I had a Steam Deck. You've got one, and I always got the impression actually there's a lot of kit here, and it didn't cost a huge amount. I don't think they're going, oh, brilliant, we sold another Steam Deck. Well, that's another $200 in the bank for us. They're probably going, actually, we're losing, $50 on each one. But it's getting people into the Steam ecosystem, so they'll buy the games. And, of course, on every game they sell, they might make 30%. So that's actually what they're going for. So more people have the Steam operating system, Steam Deck operating system, and it's all different machines, and it's going to be loads of people, buying £40 games, and they're getting £12.50 for each and every one. That's I'm trying to work out their business model now, but that's the route I would go down.
I mean, I'm hoping at some stage. It's difficult to say how successful it's really been. I mean, it looks like it has been. They haven't released figures of how many units have sold. I don't know if it's in the millions. I think it probably is at this point. Probably not a handful of million, perhaps. I could be completely wrong, but again, we don't know. But I would be interested to see if they're ever going to try and put it in the general kind of retail realm. Like you'd be able to buy it off Amazon, you'd be able to go into a shop, Argos or something, and get a Steam Deck, because that's where a lot of the general gaming public will probably hear about it for the first time. If they see it in game, there's this the gaming section. They have a really kind of like crap, half-hearted PC gaming section in like a game store, as in literally game. I don't mean just a video game store generally. Game. Because you have your classic sort of parents will go in there and see this cool looking handheld that plays PC games in a really easy to use way, relatively easy to use way, for 350-ish quid for the base model. I think it'd probably sell very well, and I mean it's only got to take the sales rep to say how much are the games, and if they're any good at their job, they'll say, well, this game on the Switch, which is also handheld, is 60 quid, but you can get it on Steam right now for 20. It's going to be that's the argument I've made about the Steam Deck, is you can buy the PC version of a game often for a fraction of the price of the console version. So you've kind of negated a little bit of the advantage of the Switch, that it's handheld. With the Steam Deck, you're like, well, it's this kind of it's like the normal home console version of a game, PC version, but at the PC game price and the PC experience. So that'd be interesting if they ever do go down that route. I think they probably will. I think they're just trying to service the people at the moment that have pre-ordered it. And perhaps when they start getting more manufactured and there's kind of a bit of an overflow and a backlog, or well, not a backlog, but a backstock, they might think, right, well, maybe we can start selling, these to Amazon and places like that, and see if we can get a bit more, saturation.
Yeah. I mean, I'll certainly like to see that, and see how popular sort of it actually can become. And I think it's got huge potential.
Yeah, I think in that handheld, high-powered handheld. I mean, I count the Switch as a high-powered handheld. It was when it came out. In 2017, it was the PS4, Xbox One era, and it was, it was kind of in between an Xbox 360 and a PS4 almost, wasn't it? Kind of power-wise. I think it's going to get better and better now because of the Switch. And I think probably most of its competition, I know there's an argument, the Steam Deck isn't its competitor, it's a PC, it is a competitor. There are people that will buy a Steam Deck and won't buy a Switch now, that might have bought a Switch, So I think most of the competition will come from the handheld gaming PC realm. I don't think Microsoft and PlayStation will make a competitor. The chances have gone up of them making a handheld since the Switch came out, I would say. I don't think it's critically gone up, but it's definitely up. So maybe. But yeah, I think there'll be more Iron Neos, although they'll struggle with their price points, but maybe they'll have a niche that will make them viable. More likely, a Dell will come in either. Maybe they'll license the Steam OS. I don't know if it's a license you need with the Steam OS because it's Linux. Linux is generally free. I know there are kind of commercial versions that people pay for. But maybe they'll go down the Linux route or get Windows, an optimized version of Windows, like you were sort of speculating. Dell, Asus, all the big PC manufacturers, they're already dipping their toes in gaming laptops. A lot of them are full on into it. I mean, Dell bought Alienware. Hell, an Alienware handheld gaming PC, that's kind of a no-brainer, right? Asus have their brand. MSI,
there's another one.
Huge with gaming laptops. I mean, God, if you really want to go mental, Apple,
that's
I know you
happen.
could. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could just say, well, put an iPhone in some kind of shell that has a controller in it, I guess. But they're kind of trying to be a little bit better with that, with the Apple TV, by letting you connect an Xbox controller so you can play all the terrible sort of, they've got a handful of exclusives that are good. I mean, the only game I'm interested in is Sociable Soccer that's exclusive, lol, to Apple at the moment, to Apple Arcade.
It's coming not very sociable, then, is it?
No, it's not. But it's coming to PC and I think PS5 soon. So that's probably where it will do most of its business, I think. But yeah, I think there'll be more. There'll be another Steam Deck. There'll be hopefully within the coming year they'll at least announce a new Switch. I mean, they probably should have done that this year. Probably around now, I think, really, for release next March.
Think people are talking about the new Breath of the Wild 2 or whatever it's called. Whistle in the Wind.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom.
The Zelda Scrolls Morrowind.
Yeah, that's going to be that'll be like the launch title with it. So
yeah, because obviously that was announced for the Wii U, wasn't it, originally, and later on it became a Switch game. So a lot of people saying, "Oh no," because they would have waited for the Switch 2 announcement. If that was the case, it's like no, because everyone thought Breath of the Wild was just on the Wii U. We knew there was like something coming, didn't we, console wise? But obviously that initial Zelda game announcement, there was no mention of it. I feel like it was about November 2016-ish when they said it was when they announced it. It might have been a bit earlier than that. And then we got it in March of the following year. So, I mean, it's not November yet. They might have something. I don't think they are, though. I mean, when do you, as a last thing, when do you think it'll be announced officially, the next Switch?
I think I'd like to see something like January and then announcing it for April or May. And then to come out with the new Zelda game. That'll be sort of my recommendation, because I think what they don't want to do is say, oh, it's coming out in 9 months, it's coming out in a year, and then the sales of the current Switch will just drop off. They want to sort of keep that momentum, if it's easy to say, coming through, so people keep on buying. I think they still will buy it anyway, but they don't want people to go, okay, well, I'm going to wait for the new one. And actually,
I mean, Breath of the Wild was like so good that people would just buy the new Switch to play it on it. Well, so they could put it on the old one, but it'll be a reason to get like hopefully it would run better and unlock a 60 frames a second 4K mode when you have it docked on the new Switch that you just can't do on the regular Switch. So as a final thought, then very, very final thought, in terms of power. How powerful do you think it would be?
I mean, it's hard to say. I think whatever I want it to be, it won't be as powerful as I want it to be.
That's fair.
And I said before, something similar to an Xbox, Series S. I think that'll be, that'll give it another, 7-8 years. It'll be able to no problem just get loads of ports from the other systems, get all the multi-plat games on
you'll be able to get Cyberpunk running on a handheld Series X level Switch, wouldn't you? And all that stuff.
Exactly, and for it just to be copied out, sort of moved over. But I think it's going to be something similar to what you were saying, similar to a Steam Deck, similar to sort of a PS4, and I think they'll be doing themselves a little bit of an injustice. And before they know it, it will be, people will just be buying it for the Nintendo games again, rather than, all the multiplats.
Yeah. So hopefully it will be announced before the end of the year. I think it's more likely next year now, but it's got to be within the next year. In terms of, lastly, Steam Deck, I think there'll be a Steam Deck 2. Then probably 2 years from now, probably be able on about the level of between a Series S Xbox and the Series X. I think it's probably in terms of how the technology would have got to that point for a handheld like that to be viable. But yeah, well, that was our episode. Sorry about having to talk about the Switch after the really interesting discussion about YouTube drama. But you know what? We have to talk about video game stuff occasionally on this podcast. But anyway, Stu, where can you find us?
Well, you can find us on all the podcast clients, and hopefully they'll be available there to download. And then you can find us on Facebook, search Console Shock. Find us on Twitter, search Console Shock. And then you can also find us on YouTube, Console Shock. And we do have the website, consoleshock.net. Cool.
Well, thanks again, everybody, for listening to us rambling. Take care, everybody, and we shall see you in the next one.
Take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.